having launched what I would argue is one of my favorite and really honestly one of the best cards to date, I think it's finally time. Today, we talk about how we can actually get the maximum value out of our Capital One points. Well, technically miles. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. For our new viewers, hello, my name is John of John's Finance Tips. I'm the guy you've probably seen on the interwebs, largely in a vertical form factor, talking all things money, whether it's making, investing, saving. And as it comes to credit cards, I love talking about hacking them. Specifically, how can you hack them for the maximum amount of value? That's why today we're talking credit card points, well, technically miles from the Capital One ecosystem, and how exactly you can flip those miles for not just like a couple $100s, because honestly, anyone can do that, but how can you get thousands of dollars of outsized value from those miles? So with that, pop a squat, tap that little thumb icon, and if you'd like to support me and help me continue doing what I love, which is bringing you all these videos on credit card tips and tricks and everything in between, you can feel free to check out any of the affiliate links for my top credit card offers linked down below. We'll start off with housekeeping. Because if we're gonna talk about credit card points and miles and compare them against value here, value there, we need to actually understand what exactly we're comparing. So the thing that we're going to be comparing is the cent per point value. What that basically allows you to do is take airline points, compare them to hotel points, compare them to credit card points. And here is how that formula breaks down. You would take the cash value of whatever it is that you're booking. So let's say an airfare, and then you divide it by the actual points that you used, and then you multiply the whole thing by 100. So an easy example is a $100 flight ticket. However, you ended up using 10,000 points, you multiply the whole thing by 100, and you're gonna get a cent per point value of 1. And what 1 represents is baseline. In the points and miles ecosystem, having that value basically means that's good. That's what you would typically expect. If you're below it, meh. If you're above it, you're crushing it. But that is the center baseline. We're gonna measure all of the different various options we have of using our Capital One miles. With that, we've got 8 different various ways that we can redeem our Capital One miles. I'm going to be going from the least valuable, where you're getting a couple $100s of value, to the most valuable, where you can literally get thousands of dollars of value from those miles. So to get started, log on to your Capital One page and go ahead and click View Rewards. And there you're going to be presented with all 8 of those options, I guess plus technically a bonus one where you can combine points between accounts. Coming in at number 8, we have Redeem for Cash. So go ahead and click that little tile and you see that you have 2 options. You can either get a credit on your card or you can have them mail you a check. So we're gonna go ahead and see hypothetically what it would be if I got a credit on the account. So I click that and I see that my 241,281 miles could be converted into $1,206.41. So on the surface, you're like, okay, that's not bad. I'm converting a bunch of these miles into almost $1,000. That's good, right? Well, I'm not so sure. So let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. We take 1,206 divided by 241,281 miles, and then you multiply that all by 100, and you get a cent per point value of 0.5628. Yeah, that's bad. That's actually really, really bad. I would 100% not do this. And a quick note, it honestly kind of annoys me that Capital One calls their points miles, but regardless though, miles, points from Capital One, they're all equivalent to the same thing, and that's why we can still use the cent per point formula, not calling it the cent per mile formula. So yeah, just want to put that one out there. Regardless, coming in at less than 1 cent per point is horrible. I would 1000% not do this unless you're in a complete cash crunch, unless you had a bunch of Capital One miles to burn. I otherwise would just kind of leave this as is and move on to the next option. Number 7. You can redeem your miles for gift cards. So go ahead and click that middle tile. And you're gonna be brought up to the screen where you can buy various gift cards, anything from Apple to DSW to Uber Eats. But let's see what it would actually be worth to redeem for one of these said gift cards. So let's go ahead and select into Apple. Here we can see that if we wanted to buy one Apple gift card that's valued at $25, it would cost us 3,125 miles. All right, let's go ahead and plug that into the formula and see what this is actually worth. You go ahead and you would take $25 divided by 3,125, multiply by 100, and you get 0.8. All right, this is a little bit better than redeeming for straight cash, but again, it's still below our baseline measure of 1 cent per point. Would I do this necessarily? Again, probably not, unless it was a complete pinch and I didn't know what to do as a last minute gift and I really had a ton of miles to burn, I'll pick up a gift card, but for the most part, I'm not touching this option. Number 6, redeem for experiences. We'll go and click that tile, and in here, you can redeem for various types of experiences, from food to entertainment to music. Heck, you could even redeem it for a ticket to go see Beyonce, which I actually did see her last week. It wasn't through Capital One, and oh my gosh, Queen Bee slayed. Anyway, that's not why we're here. Now, since I just saw Beyonce, I probably wouldn't redeem for that experience, so maybe like a culinary experience. Maybe I'm out to Portland, I want a nice dining experience. All right, I'll go ahead and bite and take a look at this particular dining experience at Acadie PDX. Hopefully I didn't pronounce that incorrectly. It looks like if I want tickets here to get a 3-course meal and the works, it would cost me $175, or I could use my Capital One miles, and that would cost me 21,875 miles. All right, let's go ahead and see whether or not this is worth it for us. We'll plug that into our formula, $175 divided by 21,875, multiply that by 100, and we get a cent per point value of 0.8. So kind of similar to gift cards, I'm not really jumping for joy over this. It's not something I'm like, oh wow, this is incredible. However, in a pinch, or if there was ever a situation where Capital One gets access to tickets or events that you otherwise can't get, I could see how it could make sense. But for the most part, if it's just like, hey, Beyonce tickets you can buy here or anywhere else, I probably wouldn't be spending my points like that. However, it would still be better than purchasing tickets using cash and then getting a credit of cash using your Capital One miles. Folks, back to school season upon us. I'm sure we are spending and spending and spending. Honestly, even if it's not back to school season, we're probably spending on Amazon. So it's nice to know that you can use your miles, redeem them through Amazon. Let's see what that would cost us. So go ahead and hit redeem for Amazon, and you actually do need to go ahead and link your card to your Amazon account. Now, as you can see here, I personally don't have any of my cards linked. No particular reason. I think largely because I actually really like the offers that American Express has with Amazon. But because I don't have it linked, I don't have a quick way to pull up what the relative value is, so I did some Googling, and I found that if you wanted to make any purchase on Amazon and use your Capital One miles, for every dollar you spend, it would cost you 125 miles. So let's go ahead and plug that into a formula. $1 over 125 miles multiplied by 100, that is gonna be a cent per point value of 0.8, which is still below our baseline of 1. Similar to everything else that's coming in at under 1, I would say in a pinch, sure, but I'm not really leaning towards this as a recommended way of using your Capital One miles. Coming to number 4, we've got an option to redeem with PayPal. So let's go ahead and click into that button right there, and we get this pop up to link our Capital One card to PayPal. I don't have it linked, but we'll take a look at this example right here that they've shown of what a fictitious linked account could redeem in terms of point/cash value on PayPal. So it looks like here, if you were to swipe a $50 charge on PayPal, that would cost you 625,000 Capital One miles. So we take $50, put that over 6,250, multiply by 100, and we get 0.8. So still not quite at the baseline yet. In the same comment for everything else that came in at a 0.8 cent per point is you have to use it in a crunch. Sure, would I? No. Coming in at number 3, hopefully we're gonna break the 0.8 cent per point streak here. We're gonna be able to use our miles to cover for eligible travel expenses. This one's pretty straightforward. You go ahead and click into there. Now, I don't have any eligible travel purchases recently charged off into any of my Capital One cards, but if you did, they would pop up and you would be able to redeem them kind of like a statement credit. I did a bit of searching online. It looks like if you were to, let's say, charge off $100 to an eligible travel purchase, you could redeem 10,000 miles, which if we plug that into a formula, $100 over 10,000 miles multiplied by 100, that is gonna get 1 cent per point. Hallelujah, yes, we are finally at baseline. This is an acceptable way to use your Capital One miles. I have no qualms about it. If you're charging off eligible travel purchases and later on you're like, hey, you know, I actually don't wanna pay any other money out of my checking or savings account, I just redeem my miles, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with this option. It's valid to me. Coming in at number 2, you can use your miles. I just wish they would stop calling them that. You can use the currencies that you earn from your Capital One cards to book for a trip. So this is pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and click into the option. You can book flights, hotels, car rentals. For this example, let's see what it would cost to book a flight. let's plug in my home airport of Boston. Maybe I want to get out to LA for a little bit. Let's see what that would cost us. So immediately once you hit search, it actually just pulls in the lowest available ticket, which is going to be about $156, or it would cost me 15,608 miles. What is pretty cool about the Capital One travel portal are two things. One, if you look on the right here, you're able to see that it actually gives you a recommendation as to whether or not this is a good deal or not. And if you're someone that doesn't keep track of every single flight price every single day, this is probably pretty helpful. The other thing it offers you is the ability to freeze a price. So you see a good deal and you don't know if you're traveling or who's traveling, you can actually pay to just lock that in. Personally, I don't know if I would use it, but if in a pinch you have a big group, it's convenient that it's at least available. So anyway, let's take a look at the flight that we found here. Scrolling down, we see that it's a Spirit Airlines flight. Which makes me wonder, $156, it'll probably cost more if, I don't know, I had to like breathe on the plane or something. But anyway, let's go ahead and run with the example. $156 divided by 15,608 miles, multiply that by 100, and you will get a value of 1 cent per point, which is totally acceptable. So at a 1 cent per point value, I'm okay with it in terms of using this redemption method. But again, going back to Flying Spirit, knowing that they're an ultra low cost carrier, knowing the fact that they make their money from every minuscule upsell, I don't know, because, well, you pay $158 or 15,800 points. Is that really what you actually end up paying after you fly? Or are they gonna charge you to just walk onto the plane? Are they gonna charge you for coughing the wrong way? Are they gonna charge you for asking for extra napkins? I don't know, but it's Spirit. Regardless, folks, this is a method I am okay redeeming points with because it comes in at a 1 cent per point value. And now, number one. The method in which I think most people are gonna get the most value out of their Capital One miles, and that is going to be converting the reward points to a transfer partner, whether it be an airline or a hotel. So let's click into the option and see all the various partners that we can go ahead and move our points to. This itself could be another dedicated video of exactly who, where, and what to transfer to. But for the purpose of the video, we're gonna talk about two, and that's going to be the Flying Blue program, comprised of Air France and Royal Dutch KLM, as well as Turkish Airways. The first one we're gonna talk about is Flying Blue. Converting the points over is pretty straightforward, or I guess rather the miles over to miles is pretty straightforward. Just go ahead and click into the tile and you're gonna enter in your membership number. They'll ask you how many miles you wanna move over, and that's kind of it. And I personally really like using Flying Blue, especially when it comes to trying to get some decent sweet spot value or just cheaper value flying business or economy over into Europe. So let's say next year we wanna hop across the pond for some croissants and a beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower. Well, doing a quick search on Air France, we would see a one-way from Boston to Paris would cost us about 70,000 miles from Air France / the Flying Blue program, and about $208 in taxes and fees. Conversely, if we decided that, hey, you know what, we don't want to use our points and miles, we'd rather just pay cash, the exact same cash booking would cost a little over $3,000. Yikes. Okay. So let's see then how much our 70,000 miles from Capital One would actually cost us in terms of the cent per point formula. So in this example though, one thing I do want to call out that we haven't had to pay attention to yet are the taxes and fees associated with award bookings. When you book awards, for the most part, it is heavily discounted. It's nearly free, but there are tax and fees you want to consider. And in our formula, we're going to now adjust it to the cash value of the ticket we would have paid minus the taxes and fees that we do pay, divide all of that by the number of miles required, and you multiply by 100. So in this instance, the formula would be $3,082 minus the $208 in tax and fees, divide all of that by 70,000 miles, you multiply that by 100, and you would get a whopping cent per point value of 4.1. 4 times greater than the baseline value of 1. This is an incredible deal. Now, the other thing I want to point out, you're not going to know this, but there are oftentimes bonuses where you can basically get a 20%, 30% bonus for transferring your miles to certain programs. Air France / Flying Blue is one that frequently gets a bonus, so that cent per point value could be even higher if you actually didn't need the full 7,000 miles transferred from Capital One to go over to Flying Blue. But what if a hop across the pond for some escargot isn't quite your cup of tea? What if you want to go a little bit further? What if maybe you wanted to go to Asia? In fact, what if you wanted to go to what I would call is probably one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to, the Philippines. In fact, so beautiful that I've been 3 times and I'm going back for another 4th trip next year. Okay, going to the Philippines. Well, one way you could redeem is actually on Turkish Airways. So let's go ahead and transfer the miles. You click in, you enter in your information, and you're gonna be transferring miles from Capital One over to Turkish Airways, and you go into Turkish Airways to look for a booking flying from Boston to Manila. You're gonna have to have a connection in Istanbul, which isn't terrible. I actually spent 2 days in Istanbul and it was such a gorgeous city. The food, top notch. So this flight in business class, full lie flat seat, premium service would cost you 67,500 miles and $413 in taxes and fees. Conversely, if you want to make this booking cash, it would cost you a little bit over $4,300. Right off the bat, there's something interesting you should note in that you're flying from Boston all the way to Asia for quote unquote less miles than it would cost to go from Boston to Europe. This is what I'm talking about in the points and miles game, in that there's a billion different ways to put together these itineraries, and this is an incredible value get into Asia for just 67,000 miles. Anyway, let's go ahead and plug this into our formula. So the cash value we would have paid was $4,362. Subtract out the taxes and fees we do pay, which is $413.90. You divide all of that by 67,500. We multiply by 100, and we get a cent per point value of 5.84. This I am jumping on any given day. In fact, I am jumping on it because this is exactly how I'm flying from Boston to the Philippines next year. On my leg over is gonna be connecting to Istanbul on Turkish Airways, spending 67,500 miles that I transferred from my Capital One miles. Folks, that does it. Hopefully this gives you an idea of some of the ways that you can use your Capital One miles and some of the ways that you can get the most value for your Capital One miles. As always, if you have comments, questions, suggestions for other videos, you can drop them right down below. And I'd love to hear from you all. How do you typically redeem your points and miles? And I'll catch you all on the next video. Peace!